Okay, gang, one other thing. It's still August 22nd. I wanted to add an addendum here to today's video because it's always useful to remember and remind yourself why it is why it is you do things the way that you do them. In this instance, it's to remind you guys why we do things the way that we do it. And I've gotten questions before about, why don't you still leave the trading room open all day, or why don't you trade all day, or whatever the case may be, right? And there are a couple of reasons for that. One of the first is, as a general rule, there are diminishing returns the longer you kind of trade intraday. It takes enormous energy and focus to day trade, and to sustain that for what amounts to 6 or 7 hours. And don't fool yourself if you're taking a lunch break and coming back, right? If you're doing that consistently, so you're trading pretty much the 2 to 3 hours in the morning, and then you're coming back in the afternoon for another 1.5, 2, 3 hours. You are really more like 2 hours in the afternoon, but you're really putting yourself at a disadvantage just in terms of your energy, right? And your ability to focus in with like a laser, right? It's very, very difficult as a human being. It's very, very difficult to stay tuned in to the level and degree to which you need to be to extract profits from the market. There's another reason. Oftentimes we can find a good enough move for our purposes. Certainly, if we're working within the confines of the market's structure, the context that it's giving us, and keep our risk at a minimum. It is absolutely possible, as a general rule, to find what you're looking for at some point in the morning before 11 o'clock, if you really want to stretch it out before 11:30 or so, right? And then there are days, oftentimes you'll get like a continuation move to the upside or the downside, and those are the days when you look at it and you say, man, if I had only kept trading, and even if I just traded the one side of the market where it was trending, or whatever the case may be, right? Here are the days that can beat you up, right? From a trend trader perspective, right? We've already talked about the days that can beat you up as a counter trend trader, right? And how deadly they can be. Well, this is the flip side of that, right? As a trend trader, as someone who's looking to take the context into account and trade accordingly, these are the days that can absolutely be maddening, right? This looks like about a 10-point range, which it actually is, but it's hard to get yourself inside and trade this action, right? I would say there were a couple of times today where it looked like it was all over except for the recording, right? This move initially this morning looked like we were ultimately going to penetrate the low power zone. Turns out that wasn't the case. Nice bounce here, back up to resistance, sideways a little bit. I remember saying that on the micro time frame, it looked like a couple of these things looked like good shorts, but I was staying away from it because at this time the bias was long, right? Well, lo and behold, look at this drop, right down here back to expanded support, right? And then we kind of went sideways to up a little bit, and then we did this, right? Now, anyone who's been trading for any period of time that tells you that this would not have led them to this candle, right? This action and this candle, taking all of this into context. Anyone who tells you that this would not have led them to think that we were going to end up here, either isn't a price action trader, or they're not very good at it, right? Because what this chart is telling you is that price had sustained or managed to withstand, I should say, this thrust to the downside, and more importantly, this big thrust to the downside, right? And came back and then pushed up and took out the high of this bar, the high of this action, even though you were running into a good resistance area right here, right? The winning formula would have been to be on the side of a pullback here with a thought that this thing was going to do this. Certainly not that we were going to pull back, go sideways, then drop back through before bouncing a little bit and then dropping back again, right? This is a highly this is a very difficult day to trade, and fortunately, at least so far in my nearly 20-year career, this kind of price action is pretty rare, right? You can have pockets of it over certain periods of the day, but to have this kind of price action over the entire day, very rare indeed, right? So it's also the kind of price action that makes me glad that I was good and done before 11 o'clock today and didn't get caught trying to find my setup within context here. I'm not even sure I would have been presented with any real setups. Maybe here, right? Depending on how it traded here. If it started to bounce a little bit, I might have gotten a micro signal, long signal here that would have been stopped out for sure, right? The only reason I point this one up is because the bias, I'm fairly certain, would have been long here, right? Probably flipped around when she got back down here, then flipped back to long until I don't know when. Maybe it did already up here, maybe it didn't, I don't know. But my guess is also that I would have been gun shy, even at this point. After it did this, right? My guess is I would have been of the mindset, you know what? I don't really know what's going on. I can't really suss it out. In all likelihood, I would be down, maybe even a daily goal. So I probably would have pulled the plug at this point. But I'm saying all of this to say that when you have doubts and misgivings about maybe not trading all day, or the quote-unquote money that you're leaving on the table by not being around and trading all day, think again. Okay? So burn this into your memory, right? And let this be the image that comes to mind every time you think, you know what, I think I'm just going to trade all day from now on, right? This is what I want you to think about. Okay? So that really is going to do it today. Actually, you know what, I'm going to produce this as a separate video because it's that important a point. But it'll be attached to the wrap or just under the wrap tonight, so it'll be there for you guys to see. All right, that's it. We will see you. We'll definitely see you guys tomorrow. Take care.